Just what are you doing for yourself, to yourself, by yourself, because you love yourself? What is love? Love is self-sacrifice. Love is the ability to put the person who I am in the future ahead of who I am right now. So in cultivating love, I'd say that I think we are seriously lacking some type of spiritual connection. I'm not saying what you need to believe in, but we have to believe in something that's bigger than us. Artistic creation. Our brain is not in our head; it's throughout our body. So how much are we moving? What are we doing? Whether it's artistic work, whether it's dancing, whether it's just sitting outside, in nature.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are watching or listening. This is the Holistic Monitor, and I'm your host, Nick Sconia. The Holistic Monitor is a wellness podcast featuring life energy research, health and wellness transformation, self-improvement and empowerment, philosophy, spirituality, and now guest interviews as well. We look forward to your comments on our YouTube channel at Holistic Monitor, and you can also listen on the go with us at Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and more. And with that, let's get today's show started. Roger Pollard, you are, I could call you the coach, because you've been coaching for
Yes,
so long.
yes.
Oh,
Coaching and teaching. I said the difference between coaching and teaching is
yeah.
is whether you're on a field or on a court or in a classroom, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah, and teaching as well, right?
Yes,
Coaching,
sir.
teaching.
15 years.
And you are working on a series of books, motivational books.
Yes, I set out. I had a major depressive episode about 3 years ago, and I
Mm.
ended up, after coming back from that, ended up really just wanting to really look into, motivation, look into mental health, look into some of the issues that I think not only myself but a lot of people were having, and I suggest writing a book. I think everybody should do it because it just really challenges you to come up with why you believe whatever you believe. There are so many things that I think we believe just because, it's been given to us or just because we've seen it on TV. But now, once you come down and start writing it down, you can really start investigating reasons why you believe certain concepts. So, long story short, um, a motivational book series. The first book is finding out about yourself. The second book is finding out what virtues that we should kind of live by, and then the third book is kind of a philosophical, theological concept, really explaining out why courage, love, and discipline is the way we should move forward, or with what we should move forward with every day.
Courage, love, and discipline.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and then
Is that founded in the virtues in the second book?
yes, that
Okay.
is. I say courage is the ability. Well, one, I think a lot of us we speak and we have conversations. And this is something I love to do with my high school students. Is how many of you guys love your parents? And everybody raises their hands. And I ask them, okay, what's the definition of love? And
Mm-hmm.
crickets come. So I think we're our fast paced environment is great. Our language is great, but I just know for a fact we're able to use an infinite amount more words than we actually have a current clear understanding of what their definition is. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, I think a lot of us are having conversations with ourselves. If I'm using words and I have certain definitions for them, and you're hearing words and you have different definitions for them, then we're not really truly communicating, right? Communication is the art of moving my interpretation and perception onto you, but we have to have an agreed upon understanding of what these words mean. So I said courage is the ability to look forward, knowing both the good and the bad. And from a courage standpoint, you know that the only thing that you will have 100% tomorrow or next week or in 15 or 10 years is your body. So how intentional are you about your sleep? How intentional are you about your exercise? And how intentional about what we're putting in our mouths?
Mm-hmm.
So um, just coming from it from a practical standpoint, not the movie stars in terms of courageous running up the hill and storming the hill. I get that. That's great, but I don't plan on storming any hills anytime soon. Just what are you doing for yourself, to yourself, by yourself, because you love yourself? What is love? Love is self-sacrifice. Love is the ability to put the person who I am in the future ahead of who I am right now. So in cultivating love, I'd say that I think we are seriously lacking some type of spiritual connection. I'm not saying what you need to believe in, but we have to believe in something that's bigger than us. Artistic creation. Our brain is not in our head; it's throughout our body. So how much are we moving? What are we doing? Whether it's artistic work, whether it's dancing, whether it's just sitting outside, in nature. Um, so going through each one of these and really hammering them out and going through each one of the three principles that make each one of the virtues. So I'm just really defining it in book two, and then book three is where I'm really going into to a lot of the science.
Oh,
What do we
okay.
know about meditation? What is it doing in terms of your brain, in terms of your lateral prefrontal cortex? What is it? What is it? What is grounding?
Yeah.
What does exercise do? What does BDNF do? So really going in on all of the science right now, and it's amazing. It's,
Hmm.
it's it's honestly amazing that we're at where we're at today as a society.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, what I find really interesting when I learned anatomy, I was just like, how do we know all this stuff about the body?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like the nerves, it's like, oh my gosh, it's just amazing.
Well,
Um,
there's just people who are willing, and I mean, what is life? Life is an investigation. You
yeah,
can um, you can either hold what other people say and take that for fact, or you can go out and you can make your own conclusions. And in the day and age that we're in right now, you can't take everything that you hear literally,
right,
because the people in charge of pushing stories have their own narratives.
right.
How many narratives are we blindlessly and willfully a part of simply because we won't ask questions?
Hmm.
Um, Not to say that if you made your own decisions all the time that you're going to be right, but at
Right.
the end of the day, I want to make my own mistakes. And
Yeah.
we all learn from our own mistakes more than we learn from other people's.
Yeah, and I find that, for myself, I've believed things that were false. It didn't really falsify my feeling and what I got off of the experience, but the information itself may have been false in the encapsulated in that realm. But it didn't negate the experience that I had with whatever it was that whatever the false thing was that I was believing, or
You know,
it's part of like who we are, and stumbling and falling is part of what we do. But it is a matter of being aware of that, and also being aware of our shortcomings and our strengths, so that we can pick ourselves back up and get on to the right path, as it were, something that is going to give us more self-evaluation versus a falsity that might give us some kind of, you know, misdirection. You know,
little misdirection, a little positive feedback loop, a little
yeah,
hey, don't worry about anything, just be a consumer,
right, right,
um, and essentially it's life. I can we can define what a kiss is. I can tell you how you should kiss, but until you've had your first kiss, that experience cannot be transferred through words, through movies, through anything. So that's what we're here for. We're here to experience. Now, are there things you should do and are there things you shouldn't do? Of course, we all know that.
yeah,
But I think it's as like I say, perception and experience, they dance together. They both move and form each other. So I mean that's life. As you
right,
go through
right,
experience, your perceptions change, and now you look at things differently. And if you change the way you look at the world you look at changes. So that's a continual battle. It's not a one time thing. It's not a one time event. And I just think we've got to be a little bit more intentional and deliberate about it. What
yeah,
exactly is it that you want?
right. And that I think that is really important. Is just defining that question,
Right.
the dilemma. Find the
Yes.
dilemma and work on
Right.
that dilemma. And
Right.
likely it is something like, what do you truly want in life? What are you looking to
Right.
get out of this situation? Truly
Right.
looking to get out of the
Right.
situation.
and that's
um,
always going to change,
and it's going to
right? Like
change. Yeah,
if you gave me $1 million when I was 5 years old, I would have spent it all on Pokemon cards,
yeah,
So, essentially, then that's where the perception and experience things comes in. I don't know how much there is truly a specific right or wrong. There's just a path that we're trying to aim and reach into something that's, I think, for lack of a better way of defining it, that's good, true, and beautiful. Just because it's good doesn't mean it's beautiful. It doesn't mean it's true.
right.
So, as long as we're continually moving up into that direction, which I I call it the intentional cultivation of wisdom, where wisdom is knowing what to do at what time to the proper degree, knowing how to fit a situation. And there's no way you can predict what situation you're going to be in the future. No one knows that. So we're always just trying to investigate and learn and see how we can. Hey, you know what? Last time I did this, maybe I can do that. And continually just update our upgrade our process. Like,
Hmm.
what is your process? What is our process? Do you just wake up and go out to work, or do you wake up and get yourself ready mentally, physically, emotionally to deal with the challenges and battles of the day because they're
Yeah, right. What's your prep? You know.
coming?
So you've got a lot of coaching experience that definitely leans towards this material and
Yes,
teaching as well.
yes,
Can you trace back for yourself what the initial spark was that kind of got you into a more into the direction that you're heading now, this more definitive approach
yeah.
to helping people?
I think I was always that guy. I guess I was always the person that was following the rules and doing exactly what you were supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and getting a lot of joy and pleasure from that. Like I have to say, people don't break the rules because they were having fun. They break the rules because they were bored. Well, I guess
Right.
I was a boring guy. If we were supposed to squat 5 sets of 10, I'm squatting 5 sets of 10, and then I'm trying to get everybody around me to approach an activity, even if you don't want to do it that way, with the amount of intention and and vigor that you should, simply because, like I used to tell all my players, everybody wants to win on game day. Everyone, when the date is here, when the lights are on, everybody wants to win. That's fine. The people who win on game day are the people who have 6 months out, 9 months out, 2 years out, were working, and they were working like it was game day every day until it was game day. And the fast paced, the easy product first concept that we're all in love with, right? If I can just sit down and have a conversation and get $1 million, I'd put my hands up in celebration. But we
Mm-hmm.
all know that's not the way it is.
Right.
So, um, you know, long term commitment triumphs over short term intensity 9 times, 10 times, 20 times, 100 times out of 100. So essentially, that's just who I always was. And not knowing now I'm looking back at myself and saying, oh yeah, this has always kind of resonated with you. What are the things that, if you look back into your life, that you can see brought you a certain amount of pleasure and a certain amount of joy and a certain amount of um, finding yourself in flow, right? We've all been in
Right.
that weird state where you're just like, the next word, you haven't thought about it, but it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And those have always been the moments in my life. And look, we don't know what we do. We do what we know. And I end up coaching, I end up teaching, and now I'm sitting back and saying, oh, okay, this has always been something that's resonated with me.
Right.
So um and if you asked me 10 years ago if you thought I would have been an author, I would have said no.
Right. Right.
I would not be writing a book or anything like that. But look at where it's led me.
So it's like you're allowing it to flow into its next step or stage as it
Yes,
goes. But you've always
yes,
had that spirit of motivation, that
yes.
and it sounds like collaborative team spirit in a sense.
Right.
When so you played in sports and
Yeah.
had what was your sport? If
I
there's
played
one.
football.
Football?
I
Oh,
I
okay.
played I played football, college football. I didn't play in the NFL. Um, but I guess to speak to that is, I think all of us, whenever we accomplish a great feat, we don't we don't want to sit up and down and jump and hug ourselves. We want to share those moments.
Right.
It's um uh, it's philia love. It's that brotherly love.
Right.
It's the fellowship that we have. Those moments that, and we've all had that experience where we're trying to communicate something that took place, and we're just like, you know what, bro, you just had to be there. That I think in those moments, I think something is really special. And in me walking away from coaching and spending more time with my kids, uh,
Mm-hmm.
being able to see that, to see that just writing words down in a book, or reading a book isn't necessarily as great as reading a book with them,
Right.
or, or
Right.
or writing the book with, hey, what line do you think this is, and then I also, in doing some of my research, hearing about, we do it to ourselves. How many times have you asked yourself a question? Why are you asking yourself a question if you know what the answer is? We learn in a dialogical process. So we
Right.
have conversations with ourselves, and it's not, I guess it's not bad asking yourself questions. It's only bad when you start answering them or something. I forgot how to quote that.
I'll answer them.
Yeah.
I'll let it
But
come out. I'll have a little
right,
discussion with myself. Yeah.
right, right.
Um,
But
well,
but
and so a lot of that collaborative team spirit, where we all win when you
right,
win, or all lose together, comes from
mhm,
that from football and from sport activity, and then of course that led towards for you for coaching,
right,
and
right,
that also maintains the it's kind of the on the teacher end, it maintains the balance of that team, like make sure everybody is on the team and together and thinking collaboratively,
right.
and
Well, yeah, and especially with a team, and everybody has a role.
right,
The everybody wants to be a quarterback, but there's only one on the field, right?
right,
Essentially, But how we build our program was, I don't care if you never see the field on game days. Whatever your role is what your role is. If you're a young guy and the only time you really get reps is in practice, really, really engulf yourself in your role, participate in your role as good as you can, because you getting the best that you can get out of your role in practice is making this person on the field that much better, so that when we win on game day, everybody wins. It doesn't
yeah,
say coach, it doesn't say Skippy or Lou or John. It says Gables. It said my school name. So whatever your role is on the team, play your role to your best ability. If you're a younger guy, your role is to bust your butt in practice and observe when you're not on the field, so that when you're in that situation, hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that the person that was there, that was on the field made, or you can make the plays that the person on the field was making. So
right,
really, really, not not putting too much stress or emphasis on just the individual concept. It's
yeah,
it's not about the I. It's about we. I am because we are. If everybody in the world looked like me, I wouldn't know that I was ugly. Right? It's only because of the different shades of people. It's only because of the different hues of people. It's only because of different personalities. It's only because of our differences that we know, who we are as individuals.
yeah,
So, uh, you know, building that, the community and the family type atmosphere, because essentially I think that's the first thing to our existence.
mm-hmm.
Where we are, I won't say the first thing, but I often ask people, what's the most important event of your life? And, you know, depending on where they are, and I guess it's a trick question, the most important thing that's ever happened to you in your life is that you were born.
Right,
And equally important is that someone was there to to take care of you. Because we're not
sustain
baby
sustain
sleep
life,
turtles.
yeah,
That's it, right? Like
right,
And we know this from World War I.
Hmm.
If you give a baby food, heat, anything that it needs other than human touch, the baby will die.
Hmm.
So there is something that is transmitted through human touch that we can't really quantify. So like now, and we use this in our hospitals now with premature babies. They have to be picked up and coddled.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think that ever changes. I
Yeah,
think
I don't
we
think so either.
all like, what's the number one way that we punish criminals? Oh, we send them to jail. Well, what if you're being bad in jail? What do? We put them in solitary confinement.
Right.
So um, there's something to us in the sense that we're not just one person. And then I ask my students all the time, how many things do you have on your person, or how many things are you surrounded by that you have no idea where they came from? Like, how many people were involved in making my laptop right now?
Right.
In terms of from the raw materials, right? How many people in terms of the supply chain, in terms of the manufacturing chain, in terms of the sales chain? There are
Hmm.
so many people. We're surrounded by so many people, um, and I think we take that concept for granted. Like
Definitely.
if I if I'm not driving on the street by myself. Someone made the road. Someone hung the street lights. Someone did all of those things, and it's not just someone. It's a group of people. It's a community of people. It's a world of people. Like, we're all in this together on this rock, spinning wherever it's spinning and going wherever it's going.
Yeah.
So instead of like trying to separate ourselves from each other because we're all different, because we're all special, how about we kind of just enjoy this thing called life together? Is
Hmm.
is, is essentially that type of essence or energy that I'm referring to.
Yeah. That's, you know, it's definitely a forgotten element that we are connected intrinsically. Our society is built up off of years and years and years of collaboration and agreement on the
Mhm.
way things are or the way things are going to be. You can look at all the way back to I read a really great book, and I can't remember the name. It was many, many, many years ago on Amazon shamans, Amazon tribes,
Mhm.
and how they were teaching someone about their worldview, and how the person that wrote the book was like sent back to like take the message that we could dream differently. We didn't have to dream together like we are dreaming together. We could dream a different reality into existence and change things for the better. Um, and that is what we're doing. Is we're kind of all agreeing to operate the way we're operating. Even if one of us rebels from that or doesn't like it, there's so much of a swarm of our consciousness that's involved in keeping the structure, the status quo up, or whatever it might be, until
Right.
there's a groundswell, enough people to really move to create some kind of change of some sort to the structure. But the roads still need to be roads for the cars. Like there's some real basic elements that are pretty consistent.
Right. Well, it's the zebra mentality. You say a zebra has camouflage. I tell you, you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? I can see it from a mile away, black and white. A
Right,
lion is camouflaged, a zebra is not.
right.
Well, a zebra is camouflaged against the herd. A lot of us think that it's a fact that lions don't hunt the weakest zebras.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they always attack the weak one. No, that's not what it is. What happens is the zebra that's hurt has a limp, and because of that limp, the tigers can target that zebra because now you
Hmm.
can see
They
it
can see it.
standing out, right?
Right.
Because it's the one with the limp. They found this out when they were trying to when scientists were trying to observe zebras. You make some notes and then you look up, you can't find it. So what do? They put a red mark on the zebra that they wanted to keep an eye on, and like just like that, the lion would come
Hmm.
and take it out. So,
How
and
about
we're the
that?
same way.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got out of the cancel culture kind of concept where if you did stand up or if you did say something, if you did speak your mind, um, they would go after your livelihood, and we're successful in that. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's the worst thing that we can ever do. Our ability to think, is our ability to speak. Like, we should be able to have a conversation and defend what we are saying with facts, and that's hard, in our day and age. And just
Yeah.
like you're saying, when enough people start really feeling and seeing things, because I don't think everything that we have built, which I love my house and electricity, I love the things that we're doing in society, but that's not to say that everything that we're doing is the way. It's not to say
Right.
that everything we're doing is the right way.
Right.
So until we find that ultimate truth, there's always going to be some type of disunity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I like in writing this third book, I say, I think we focus so much on the outward projections and products that we do, that's how we kind of measure people.
Mm-hmm.
But where I think we're missing the concept of how about it's not about what I produce, it's more about who I become as an individual. And I think that's what we're missing in our society. It doesn't really matter if the guy's a piece of shit. He can, as long as he's producing something of value, he can do anything he wants.
Right.
And we're missing out. We're missing the mark on that note.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I find interesting about the science angle of understanding consciousness and how things work, it goes over a lot of people's head, and that's okay. It's nice to know that there's some kind of scientific support to self-discovery and the benefits of that, and having virtues and the benefits of living a life, within those virtues, or to harvest those virtues out of life. Um, but the science part for a lot of people, it's too much. It just
Yeah.
they're like, huh, the what and the where. It's these the words and the terms. They don't
Yeah.
register and click into a reality that is concrete for most people. I would say it's just good for those that have the wherewithal on those things to hear that. Oh, is that what that does, and is that what I can get that I can draw the line between those, connect those dots. I find that science often is used for um, a way to substantiate something that may not be true.
Yes.
My example for that would be a flat Earth theory. If you listen to somebody speaking that has some kind of understanding of physics and science, they can utilize, cherry pick concepts to make it sound like there's scientific proof for this, for the flat Earth, basically. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure, oil slicks in the sky instead of rainbows or whatever it is. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure, but
Well, this is Jean Piaget he was a cognitive scientist, I believe. I forgot exactly what he did, but
Mhm.
he said, like, if you look at a biology book from 10 years ago, all the facts in there have changed, but it's not a waste of time for you to learn anything. So what he said is it doesn't really matter about learning the facts. What you're doing is the most important thing is your ability to learn these facts. Because as long as I cultivate the ability to learn, then
Yeah,
technology is great until bugs come in.
Mercury retrograde. It's been
Yeah,
happening to me
right.
all week. All week. We're all 2 weeks now. It's been terrible. On the schedule, the signals. It's like, oh, I'll
Hmm.
never schedule anything again during the retrograde
During
time
this
frame.
time, and
The reschedules and the signals loss and everything. It's like, it's insane. And it wasn't happening prior to this, and then all of a sudden, it's just a waterfall
and
of issues.
and I say there's, as we were talking about science,
Yeah.
we're so enamored with having to prove things, but I think they're all things that we knew thousands of years ago, which and we're lost. We've lost something, and I think it's something that we already had, and for whatever reasons, where we've moved away from it. But no, there's true, and then there's truth.
Right.
What's true may be what everybody believes at a certain point in time, but what's truth is the thing that's drawing us there, whether we like it or not. So just like you're saying, whether it's Mercury retrograde,
Yeah.
whether it's whatever, there is power found in the stars. There is power found in things that we may not be able to articulate using words,
Right.
and I think that's what we're kind of missing in our society today. So where was I? Oh, Gene PHA.
Mm.
uh, if you had a biology book, and it was 10 years old, there would be so many things in it that were untrue. You
Right.
wouldn't say that it was of no use not to ever learn those things. So the skill that we're always cultivating is our ability to learn. So as a high school teacher, as a history teacher, um, I tell my students, the information in here, whether or not you like it, whether or not you want to believe it, whether or not that is what it is. What we're doing is you you've you've got to cultivate your ability to learn, because how I learn history is different than how I learn math, is different than how I learn English, is different. Like, so throughout the disciplines, you become disciplined in how you learn, and once you can learn, what can't you do? And then if you can learn things that you don't want to learn, then you're set for life. And I think that's my message to our students. It's not necessarily whether or not you believe it or not, which there's a certain amount of lies in everything, but I won't call them outright lies. I'll call them uh, no, I just call them lies in the sense that if me and you are having a conversation, if you write the history of this conversation and I write the history of this conversation, those two histories are going to be different.
Yeah.
So there is no one perspective to write anything from. With that said, we still have to we still have to keep a record, kind of what these histories are. And now, as people read them and go through them, they can take from them what they need. But our ability to learn is what makes us human beings. How many of the things that you define or that we use on a daily basis, how many words have you ever uh, created? None, right? Like, so there's so much of us that is a part of what's been passed down to us that, yeah, we've got to learn about the things that happened in the past so that we cannot repeat the same mistakes that happened in the past.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, the past is never past, but if you don't understand why people did certain things, all of those horrific things were done by human beings. So to say that you would never be in a situation in which you would do it is it's a lie,
Yeah.
and just because we're in now doesn't mean that we're better than they were. So
Right.
continually learn, continually upgrade, and continually cultivate our ability to observe the situation, scenario, and circumstance, and act accordingly. And that's wisdom. How do I
Hmm.
properly fit uh, situations? How do I properly fit uh, a circumstance? What is the proper word? What is the proper way to act? What is the proper way to think? Should I be yelling like this right now? No, I have to properly put myself and taking in the information from my surroundings and act the way that I think will is accordingly, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah. When we're growing up, we don't really realize a lot of things. We're kind of in the moment. There may be
Right.
a lot of fear and hesitation, a lot of crazy emotions that come up into teenage years. What we don't realize is that we're making history as we go. We may not feel like our impression for ourself is big, or maybe we do, but those around us are being impressed by our presence, whether we're aware of it or not. Just our
Right.
existence and our going along. Somebody's tracking it. Somebody's keeping track, and it's part of their log into the history as well as your own, but people
Yeah.
aren't really aware of their own, that they're making history as they go. And by doing that, they can also look forward and say, what kind of outcome do I want in this moment, in this life? Not looking all the way ahead, but are my actions going to leave a good impression on the history that I'm living, that I'm creating? And is that going to give me an outcome that I really want in the future? Where do I want this history to end up? And history is one of those really interesting ways to gain lots of perception on the way things change and adjust, and kind of gives you a chance to rise a little bit above or beyond or outside of the cultural norms of the day. If you look at the way that writing was done not too long ago, it was all done in a very the classic style. Basically, there was a classic style of writing. It was all male oriented, like everything was he this, he that, and that was the classic style. That's how everything was written. And it was changed and adjusted slowly but surely to where we're at now. I'm not sure exactly where we're at now, but in the last couple decades, it moved into a he or she is doing that, or maybe that kind of understanding that it could be a she in the position of the storyline, but and maybe it's morphed again, and then that will morph. And that's kind of the way that history is going to look at that and say there's this zone of time where everything transferred. My thought is that it's all transferring to the feminine, and we're in a big transitory time period right now where we're going from that masculine dominance to maybe potentially a matriarchal dominance, and we don't know it. We're just
Right.
going through the
Well,
motions, and we think it's natural. Like, oh,
if
you know,
you asked, if I took a picture of, if I showed you a picture of people who were in the 20s,
hmm,
you'd be like, everybody kind of dressed the same. That's you can tell. Oh, that they're in the 20s.
right,
Oh, they're in the 70s.
hmm,
Oh, they're in the 90s.
hmm,
So there is this, and everybody didn't wake up and say, I'm gonna dress like I'm in the 20s. So we can
right,
see that now that we're over here.
right,
What are the things about us that we are acting out? You know,
exactly,
that we can't. You kind of, if the temperature of the water raises, slowly, you kind of really never even tell that the water ever changed.
right,
And that's pretty much kind of where we are, um, which is why I say that we've we have all got to do our due diligence in understanding that, um, there are messages that are being, I guess, displayed or portrayed to us,
hmm,
whether it's through movies, whether it's through TV, that are not natural. That go, and maybe they're speaking more to our, bottom chakras.
hmm,
If you look at the colors of all of the fast food restaurants and everything like that, and they're all red and orange and yellow, and there's something to it.
yeah,
They won't say that, but I mean,
right.
why is that? And if they didn't do it on purpose, then why is that?
Oh, they did it on
And if
purpose.
exactly, so
Oh yeah.
so if they did it on purpose, what other things are being given to us on purpose? Like
Hmm.
I tell my students, um, the the number the highest correlation between poverty and a person is the time in which they have their first child.
Mm.
And I mean, duh. If I'm 13 and I just had a child,
Hmm.
I can't really focus on education anymore. I have to
Right.
focus on the child. And now I say, okay, what's the first thing you see every time you turn on a movie? It's sex. What's the first thing you're listening to whenever time you're listening to songs? It's especially hip hop and rap. It's kill, kill, kill. I'm the man. Sex, sex, sex. Drug, drug, drug. Well,
Hmm.
why are these things, and are these things, especially at the stage in their life where your hormones are out of whack? You're going through the biggest physical change. And, I've had kids go from 5'5" to being 6'2" in a matter of 3 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
you, you're going through all of these changes, and now depending on the culture, what are you always implanting and putting into your ears?
Yeah.
Hey, bro, and if you want to kill somebody, just keep on shooting a gun, And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just continue glorifying the things that you're glorifying, and then when we start talking about having mantras, and when you start talking about manifesting,
Mm-hmm.
well, if you're singing, do your manifestations have to be intentional? So, what are you singing about? What are you talking about? What are the things that have your attention? And like we said, if it's being done on purpose, it is it's a very very well developed and very very well thought out plan that I think that the difference in history is always about the collective. If we can always keep the group, um, we will only grow as a people. We will always grow in correlation to what the average ability to critical think is. That's what I truly
Right.
believe.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
the things that make money right now aren't the things that are doing you won't be doing the best for you. I say,
Yeah.
just because you're mainstream doesn't mean it's good for you. Um, so I think the internet and the freedom of the internet is something that kind of it'll help people who are willing to see, but
Mm-hmm.
as the, the the more we have more of these conversations, and the more of these conversations that may not take place on a one-on-one basis, but at a party somewhere, or
Mm-hmm.
and more the more and more we can have those conversations with people. But the difference between entertainment and education has to do with the individual who's receiving the information. Point blank, period. And I tell my
Yeah.
students that all the time. I'm giving you my all. I have my diploma, I have my degree, I have my master's. You can choose to ignore me or not. I can't make you really consciously make the decision. And decision, the word decision is meaning that you're going to cut something away. Like, what parts of you, once you learn information that you truly, truly believe, there are things that I have to physically cut away from my being. That's what a decision is. And as we're talking about, the chakras and all these concepts, getting out of that carnal nature, getting out of that reptile nature, getting out of that root chakra of it's hard for me to drive past McDonald's sometimes on Fridays with my kids. It just
Mm-hmm.
it does have a certain draw to it that I I don't know, maybe I'm being pessimistic, how fast the our group, the mass, can make that sacrifice. I guess that's really what it is. Honestly, it's, do you love yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's tough. Tough when you have kids because you also have their um, so we're all kind of being culturally hypnotized by the sounds and the colors, the
And the
presentation,
ease, the
and what
ease, the ease.
the ease,
It's
the
easier.
yes,
It's way
it's the
easier for me to,
fastness.
yeah, yeah,
That is real, and they know it.
right,
I mean, they know
yeah,
like eat your food and get out of here.
right,
Get it. Get it in the drive-through, eat it in the car, and then
right.
come back for more.
Yeah. Well, I say it. It wasn't enough to kill you. It's to make you a lifelong customer and kill you while you do it.
Right. Right.
And to slow the decay. If you were going to kill Superman and you had a whole bunch of kryptonite, you don't make a kryptonite. You don't make kryptonite bullets.
Right.
You grind it into a dust, and you put it into the AC, and he walks around, as Clark Kent, everywhere he goes, he's breathing in that
Mm-hmm.
kryptonite. So that now I can walk up, and now I don't even need a kryptonite knife. I can just have him with a regular knife. And it's like we were talking about with the slow temperature raise. If there's a slow temperature drop as well, you don't really
Right.
notice. So, until that temperature gets low enough where people start shivering, who knows?
Yeah.
So, it's um, continually getting people to, and that's where I go into question why you believe things.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe what you believe? And in our cancel culture concept of shouting people down, now we need people to articulate why they believe what they believe. Period.
Yeah.
Faith and reason have got to be married. Too much faith and you go crazy. Too much reason and you can reason your way into any. Faith and reason have to be married, and that has to happen through conversations. Well, I think I and my this is my sense, and I was telling my neighbor this like the last night. But either way, I've had the conversation for a while, and I'm just like, at what point do we get to a point as a civilization where, yeah, as long as everybody has food, as long as everybody has their basic needs met, you don't have to go inside and pay for groceries or pay for this or pay for that. I guess I'm kind of just thinking of a kind of a utopian kind of concept here,
Mm-hmm.
where yeah, like we all have to work essentially because we all need things.
Right.
But we're working so that we can enjoy our time on this planet. We're not slaving away for what you know. Like,
For what?
you
That's a
have
good
billions or
question.
millions or trillions of dollars in the bank for what?
Yeah.
What is it that we are trying to fulfill and succeed? And like I was talking about, those that philia love, that fellowship love, that agapic love, that to love a thing before it has the ability to love me back. I think those are the truest things that we
Yeah.
have. And if we get out of this me above everybody else and move more into me with everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd enjoy our time here a lot better.
Yeah.
Where you just go outside with all of your neighbors and fellowship. Why do we have dinner in our house with just your immediate family?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't every night a fellowship with everybody on your block? That do you know everybody on your block? Do you know everybody, all of your neighbors all the way down the street? Because our what's ingrained in our DNA, we knew everybody that was in the town,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We knew
Yeah.
everybody that was in our tribe, because it was literally us against the world. Um, and then with that said, um, uh, we may have our infighting here in America, but there are other countries with with different government statuses that
Mm-hmm.
that are not with our mentality. So
Right.
as much as we have our differences here, we've got to come together and kind of show, I think, the world that
Yeah.
that what's real isn't this. This will fade. But what's outside, that sun, that moon, those stars, the grass, the fellowship, the love, the 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 open and honest conversation with people and community, that's what's real. And it's not me over you, it's me with you.
Yeah.
And I think that lasts forever.
And that's like really when you look at something like a tragedy, like a tornado, and everything's wiped away. But if everybody's safe in the family, at least you still have that. At least you still
Yeah,
have that. And
sure.
yes, it's like starting at zero, but you at least have the safety.
All right.
You're safe. You're not harmed. Hopefully,
Yeah,
you're alive together, and that by itself, what I find happens a lot, and probably if it's not happening, it needs to happen more. Is that the community comes together to help those in need when they're
right,
really in need. It's when we get
right,
into the city, when we get into the an urban world, that we start to really have a problem with maintaining um, community and each individual's being propped up and being
right,
secure. There's just
right,
it's too many people basically in one
right.
area.
As
It's
you
just
as you as
impossible to
you
control.
as you kind of move out, and I tell my students, if I die tomorrow, my the school can have another teacher in here tomorrow
Right.
or the next day, but my kids lose a father, they can never replace that.
Right.
My wife loses a husband. It's just not the same. You are not replaceable. You are the only you that could ever be.
Yeah.
So, and it's that same concept of we've kind of looked at people's value in terms of what they provide instead of who they are, because we can't really tell who you are. I can't tell who you are. Um, but if your face is on a whole bunch of magazines and billboards and this, now all of a sudden you're so much more. I guess I don't know. I don't know how we're kind of processing that, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I like just because I'm a great tennis player doesn't mean that I'm a great uh, basketball player.
Right.
So professionalism or expertise doesn't transfer. So just because I'm the greatest astronaut doesn't mean that I'm the greatest person. So
Exactly.
just
Right.
because I'm an expert on a specific field, um, that's great for in terms of building. In terms of, you're the greatest architect. That's great, but buildings don't last. So like I think who we are as people, I think that lasts because I think ideas are immortal, right? Some of the same ideas that we've been fighting with since the beginning of time, we're still fighting with today. Um, uh, and therefore, what ideas are we through action integrating within ourselves and giving life to? I think that's what passes on with us um, into that next life. I can only say maybe. I know
Yeah.
for a fact the Egyptians they proved it. All of that gold, if you get buried with that gold, it doesn't go with
Doesn't go with
you.
you. Yeah. It's still there.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
maybe the ideas and beliefs and the virtues that you're willing to integrate within yourself and move into action, maybe that's what passes on to you, or maybe nothing. Who knows? But
Right.
I, I'd rather tell people and teach people about the maybe, than that we know for a fact that bank account once you're gone,
Right.
it ain't going with you. And, and
Yeah.
if we can start getting people to um, if we can start moving people into the concept of becoming more instead of having more.
Mm.
I think as you become more, you can, with our relationship with the society, have more. But just because you have more doesn't mean that you've become more. Just
Right.
because you just because you're a 5-year-old but you have a Maserati doesn't mean that you can drive it. But if you if you integrate the concepts and processes of the greatest business person in the world, then you can bring then you can drive around with the Maserati, quote unquote. So
Right.
um, becoming more, and that's a how can you when are you mature enough? Oh no, I'm mature. I'm mature enough already. I think that's a lifelong quest.
That's a
You
lot.
know, and
Right. Never ends.
and and those things I think are the things that we got to just kind of start nudging people towards, and that's not to say that just because I'm mature that I'm always going to be mature, right? It's not one thing. That's why it's for me. That's why it's courage, love, and discipline. Discipline being uh, me forming and shaping the way that I act in the present as a consequence of the lessons that I learned from the past. There is
Mm.
no such thing as failure as long as I'm able to extract the lesson and blessing from the experience. Because, like we said, everything is perception and experience. And if you learn from the experience, then it's not a failure. Then it was a lesson. And with lessons, we can change the world. So,
Mm.
um, you know, uh, this was me, and this is me writing for my 8-year-old twins. Where when the year the year that they get into high school, the book everyone should read. Now that's the first book I named. I wasn't shy with the title, but just giving them a concept of finding out about themselves, and then um, uh, courage, love, and discipline. That second book in defining like what is courage, what is love, and what is discipline. And if there was one that I think could change the world, and I think that's what it's what made the world. It's love.
Yeah.
You know, all of us came here kicking and screaming out of our moms, and our moms loved us before we had the ability to do anything back for her. That's
Right.
agape love. And if how many people use the word love but don't know what that means. So everything is everything I think is in terms of education. How well do we educate people not to not to learn or recite conversations or information, but in terms of the original context, in terms of educe, to draw out of, how much are we educating individual people? How much are we bringing out the excellence from within their being, so that they can spread into the world? And once we start moving to more of that, I think we'll start seeing a little bit better of a place. But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, we need more of the coach, motivation coach.
Yeah, yeah,
So the books are out. Are they available
yeah.
for people to get to?
They're available on Amazon. That that's it. I don't do anything with distribution. I don't do anything
Okay.
with you know. This is my marketing and promoting in
Okay.
terms of just having conversation. But I tell everybody I put my heart into it because I'm writing. I'm literally writing to my kids.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
great. Yeah.
see, I've been working with high school kids for 15 years, and it's just kind of like, if I had something that I would want to tell every kid, based off of what I've seen, and just my opinion on it. Hey, but it's for them, and if someone else can gain something from me pouring my heart to my kids, it's it's a plus,
Yeah.
So why
That's
not?
great.
Yeah,
And I'll have it linked in the description for
okay.
everybody to get to. Do you have a website?
Yeah, motiveandmotivation.com. Uh, um, and then my Instagram is the number one Roger Pollard, where once a week I try and post something kind of uh, that goes with the theme. I don't just want to sit here and give you a pregame speech. I want to give you a talk about um, something that'll make you think. All
Yeah.
right, like, who are you as an individual? I am I. What's at the center of an I? A pupil, which
Hmm.
means you are always going to be a student. You
Hmm.
have to always be a student because you're an I, and I. So little things like that to get people to say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and move away from the girls twerking or
Right.
the arguments that are constantly on social media today. So
Yeah. No,
that's
that's
me.
great. Some indwelling, which we all definitely need.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here today. Really, I'm getting, I'm getting psyched. I want to get that first book
Yes, sir.
and dig in. It sounds like it's going to be a good method for self discovery, and then of course the second book and the third book would all go
Yeah.
hand in hand.
Yeah. Right.
And
Well, when you're dealing with trying to get people to move in a I guess more efficient way,
hmm
it's hard. Like, I didn't plan on writing three books. I didn't. I'm putting in 2 years of research for this third book, and it just started off with, I just want to put a little message to my kids in that
yeah,
first book, and now it's turned into this whole thing. So, um, who knows? We're just avatars flying and taking the wind, and I'm just going where the wind takes me. So,
yeah, that's
I
awesome.
appreciate you having me.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Roger, have a good night.
Yes,
Take
sir.
care.
Thank you. All
Bye
righty.
bye. Bye bye.